So basically, we're doing a limit of a trig function, because we have cosine and sine. So basically, that's what we're dealing with right here. Now, we can't plug in 0 right now, because if we plug in 0, what's going to happen is, the sine of, well, first of all, 8 times 0 is 0. The sine of 0 is 0. And then 0 times all this other stuff is going to make 0 in the denominator. That's not a good thing. So we're going to use basically this thing, which is so basically what we're going to do is we're going to use this law, or whatever it is, we're going to use it to basically solve this thing out. So the first thing we're going to do is basically, this whole thing is a fraction, right? So what we can do is that we can multiply this entire thing by a number, so long as we multiply the denominator by that exact same number. So the idea is we want, basically the bottom, we want this sine x to go away, right? That's the idea. So what we're gonna do, wait, why not? So what we're going to do is that the first thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by one number, which is 1 over 8x. Okay. So next thing is, well, first of all, notice how some stuff easily cancels out in the numerator. So 8x divided by 8x is just 1. And then you have this 8x cosine x divided by 8x. Well, those 8x's like cancel out, I guess. So now you're just left with plus cosine of 8x. Yeah, so we're done with the numerator for now. Now there's nothing right now that cancels out per se, so we're just gonna rewrite this as just this whole thing over 8x. Alrighty, so the next step is basically, you'll notice how we have a fraction. First of all, this whole thing is a fraction, but like in the denominator, we have a fraction in the denominator. So what we can do is that we can split this up into 2 fractions instead of just 1, and you're gonna see what's gonna happen if we do this. So we're not changing the numerator in this step, so we'll just kind of like, we're not dealing with the numerator for now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this thing, which is a fraction, and I'm going to split it up into 2 fractions. Check this out. So we're going to do the sine I didn't change the numerator in this step, so I just wrote it like that. But notice how we split it up into 2 fractions. Now, the reason why this is okay is because you can multiply this back in again, and it's going to give you the same thing as this. So that's why it's okay to do it this way. So notice how we have sine of 8 of x over 8x. And one of the, I guess, trig identities we can use is this one now. Now, even though it doesn't say sine of x over x, it says sine of 8x over x, but it's the same thing. We can still use that, okay? So now, what we're gonna do is, this time I'm gonna write out the denominator. Well, first of all, 3 cosine of 8x over 1, which is just, we don't really need that over 1, but I just want you to see that there's 2 fractions that we just made up. So, now we have the limit as x approaches 0 of this stuff, cosine of 8x. And now, this right here, this fraction turns to 1 because we're using this. So this fraction turns to 1 times, and we're just going to leave that alone. There's not much we can do with that. So it's going to be 3 cosine of 8x. And obviously 1 times 3 cosine x is just 3 cosine x. 3 cosine of 8x. And then we can just rewrite this as the limit as x approaches 0 of 1 plus cosine of 8x over 3 cosine of 8x. So notice how the sign went away. The sign went away because we split this up into 2 fractions. This fraction is literally the same thing as this, so that just turns into a 1 in this step. And now we're just left with this remaining. Now can we plug in 0 into this? Yes, we can, because 8 times 0 is just 0. The cosine of 0 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. So we end up not having 0 in the denominator, and that's a good thing. So now we can evaluate the limit. So now we don't have to write limit anymore. We use direct substitution at this point. So 1 times the cosine of 0 over 3 times the cosine of 0. The reason why I put in 0 instead of 8 times 0 is because obviously 8 times 0 is just 0. So in the numerator you have 1 plus the cosine of 0, which is just 1. So it's 1 plus 1, which equals 2. And then here you have the cosine of 0, which is just 1. 1 times 3 is just 3. And that's what that limit equals to. So the limit of this entire big thing, which is 8x plus 8x cosine of x, cosine of 8x, divided by 3 sine of 8x, cosine of 8x, that entire fraction, the limit of that as x approaches 0 is 2/3. So there you go. Right, you can start recording now.
Yeah.